Thank you, Chairman. Administrator, I've served in elected and appointed positions in village, county, and state government, and I personally appreciate that FEMA has been an essential partner in providing assistance to local governments and Long Island residents in their greatest time of need. And I very much appreciate that FEMA has done and continues to do for affected communities across the United States. However, I'm concerned that FEMA might be stretched too thin, that effectiveness may wane as their mission sets have significantly increased over the past several decades, especially during and after the pandemic. As you mentioned in your testimony, Administrator, the number of declared disasters which FEMA has supported in the last 10 years has increased by 191%. Also in your testimony, you stressed how FEMA is positioning itself as a resilience agency, which I believe will be extremely valuable and important in responding to and preparing for disasters in the future. Administrator, I know you mentioned in your testimony a few programs which bridge the gap between responding to disasters and creating resilient communities, and I'd like you to go into greater detail on those points. How does FEMA plan on balancing becoming a, quote, resilience agency, end quote, while also responding to a record number of disasters over the past decades? And to that point, are there better ways which states and local governments can work with FEMA to maximize those resilience objectives?
That's a really great question, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about what we're doing there. We are responding to more events, which means the recoveries themselves also are more complex. We have to get ahead of that curve. We have to start working with communities before disasters and blue sky days to better understand what we can do to reduce the impact, but also build their readiness and their resilience. Through our resilience part of our organization, we're taking a place-based approach where we're bringing in all of the services that FEMA has and bringing it to communities that we have identified through our own data that have the greatest needs, have the greatest capability gaps to help them start to build those resilient programs and plans. One example is through our BRIC program, where I directed the team to do direct technical assistance. In the first year, we only had 8 communities apply. We're going to have over 46 this year, and it's through the outreach that we have done to communities that are the most under-resourced but the most vulnerable to help them develop plans and apply for this pre-disaster mitigation funding to help them build more resilience. We're also in the process of implementing a program called Community Disaster Resilience Zones, as directed by Congress, to also give us the opportunity to increase the federal cost share for these communities, but we think it's going to be much bigger than that. It's going to give us the opportunity to partner with all of our other federal agencies to really focus a whole of government approach into some of these most vulnerable communities.
Great, thanks, and thanks for being with us here today, but more importantly, thank you for your work before, during, and after our community's most trying times. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. I now recognize Mr. Goldman from New York for 5 minutes.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I